Welcome to the very first episode of the Wellness in Asheville podcast, where we shine a light on the people, practices, and places that make this city one of the most inspiring wellness communities in the country. I'm your host, Travis Richardson, founder of Be Well Asheville, your local news source for health, wellness, and community events. And honestly, I am so excited to finally be sharing this very first episode with you. When I moved to Asheville about 5 years ago, I honestly was just blown away. The average person seemed to be an astrologer, a massage therapist, Reiki master, or some kind of healer. And I'd never experienced anything like it, being from Iowa, where we just didn't have that kind of concentration of healers. So, as I started visiting places like the Salt Cave, Taoist traditions, and more recently, Still Point Wellness, Wellspring Wellness Center, and Drip Sauna, I noticed something really different in Asheville. There's real collaboration. Healers are doing things together, they're promoting each other, and there's almost zero competitiveness, which is totally unique. There's deep pride also in being from Asheville if you are a healer. I just saw this firsthand in talking to experts over and over again. And there's a shared commitment to serving locals every bit as much as our beloved tourists here. So that's why I created this podcast to tell the stories of the coaches, body workers, acupuncturists, herbalists, doctors, spiritual guides, and many more who are shaping this vibrant wellness culture. So you can get to know them and maybe even find the exact resource that you've been looking for. Wellness isn't just a trend, it's actually a survival strategy in a world that's more distracted, stressed, disconnected, you name it, more than ever. And here in Asheville, we're doing something special about it. And if you live here, you should be very proud of your city. I know I am. So, this first episode is a teaser of what's coming next. I've got 12 experts lined up to walk us through a journey on three big themes. Section one will be about Medicine 3.0, and that is this new wave of personalized, preventative, evidence informed healthcare that was coined by the guy, Dr. Peter Attia. Section two will be the many faces of wellness and basically showing how healing and wellness comes in many forms and how you've got to find and experience for yourself what works. And number three, of course, trusting yourself to do that because, well, the best wellness decisions often start from inside you because you know you better than anyone else. And just a little bit about me. I have a long history in health and wellness. When I was about 9 years old, my mom started taking me on Mother's Day runs. And I remember the first time I ever went on one, I literally almost died. I just exhausted myself, almost threw up. And, I asked her, I said, Mom, what can I do so that this doesn't happen again? And she said, well, come running with me. So I did. Started running with my mom and, finding out about the benefits of, she always told me to eat my broccoli. And so I started, eating broccoli as much as much as I could and didn't know the benefits at the time, but just knew I didn't want to feel bad. And that kind of has taken me pretty far, actually. By the time I was 16, I was a 6-time junior national taekwondo champion. And by the time I was 19, I was training full time as a resident athlete at the Olympic Training Center as an Olympic hopeful in taekwondo. Then started my own gym called Max 10 Body Shaping. If you're from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, you maybe remember that name. Had 3 locations at one point and operated for about 8 years. And that was a 10-week body shaping program that was based around nutrition, fitness, mindset. I did grocery store tours, cooking demos, you name it. Then moved on to health and wellness coaching, and finally moved into helping a business partner co-create the Natural Living app, where I actually went around the country and filmed experts in health and wellness giving TEDx style talks. And then COVID hit and, of course, shut that whole business down. And then more recently, I started working part-time at Stretch Lab and basically just decided I want to get back into working directly with people. From there, started referring clients to Dr. James Pinkston, who's going to be part of today's episode, and got lots of good results, good feedback. And I just loved helping people find health and healing, and getting relief, and in this case from pain. So that's where Be Well Asheville started from. So, all right, without further ado, let's begin. In this first section, we're going to talk about medicine 3.0. See, the thing is, I think I've found 4 experts in Asheville that are practicing what I think is part of the next generation of healthcare. And that is that it is personalized, preventative, and evidence informed. And where does medicine 3.0, that term, come from? Well, many of you listeners out there who are following Dr. Peter Tia, he wrote the book Outlive, also has the podcast The Drive. He's the one that coined that term. And essentially, it's a progression from medicine 1.0, which is where, illness came from spirits. Pretty much there wasn't the practice of medicine as we know it today. So then we move to medicine 2.0, which really has its roots in the scientific revolution. This is all about all about observation, experimentation, and really germ theory is kind of what kicked that off back in the 19th century. So that's gotten us really far. We've done a lot with medicine 2.0, but of course now we have hit a point where it's not really serving us. Everyone knows that the medical system is broken. Nobody really has an idea how to fix it. Everything we try seems to create a worse problem. Medicine 3.0, on the other hand, is really about being highly personalized. And whether it's based off of personal genetic blueprint or having real-time data from, say, a continuous glucose monitor or maybe a neurofeedback device, as you'll hear in just a little bit. One really important signal I think that we should pay attention to is when we start to find insurance paying for some of these different modalities, and we start to recognize that the data shows that they just work.
I think, 25, even 30 years ago, you would talk about, masseuse. Now we are massage therapists. It is integrated into the healthcare system. It is being accepted into the healthcare system, and it is covered in certain there's medical massage, oncology, you name it. So I think it is now merging with like the scientific aspect of just how much someone, when they're going through chemotherapy and they're receiving a very specific medical massage, it is life-changing for them. And it helps with their recovery. It helps with the post-op, pre-op. So at that level, absolutely. But then from my end of the spectrum as an Esalen practitioner, and being aware of the fact that we so easily disassociate from our bodies, and then having someone come in and they are brave enough to get on your table and allow you, to go through this therapeutic massage with them. And when they're not used to being hugged or touched, or they rather prefer to not be, is kind of incredible.
That was Marissa Gross with the Center for Massage and Natural Health, and she's absolutely right. So there are lots of really cool things happening that are becoming mainstreamed now. Let's hear it from Dr. Mary Sissy Majebi with Taoist Traditions, talk more about how their students spend tons more time with patients, and that really honors their uniqueness, and how traditional Chinese medicine is very well suited to this new paradigm that we're calling medicine 3.0, because it has for thousands of years looked at the uniqueness of the individual through pulse diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, and many other factors about looking, listening, and observing, which is something that, in my opinion, is really lacking from the current medical system.
In Western medicine, you're treating a symptom, but you're not treating a patient who has a symptom. Every patient gets the same pharmaceutical, and there's a dosage, okay? But someone could come in with a headache, and after I take their pulses, I could see, oh, there's a stomach imbalance that's creating this. Or I could say, there's an imbalance in the gallbladder, or there's an imbalance in the urinary bladder. And the only way you find these things out is by taking a complete history. And that means spending anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour finding out more about the person. And it's not just the symptom. The symptom is the view of is part of the imbalance. And where's the balance the imbalance that's creating that symptom?
So Dr. Mary Sissy Majebe is somebody who I think epitomizes that hands-on personalized approach. I just recently saw an Instagram of her interacting with the students and how she was just going around and really making just amazing contact with them, interacting in a very personalized way. And I think there's a lot to be said for experts that can do that in health and wellness, and how, in this medicine 3.0 paradigm, that's absolutely critical, because how can you personalized medicine if you don't listen and pay attention to your client or your patient? This next little snippet is from Dr. James Pinkston, who runs Asheville Non-Surgical Orthopedics, and he's actually my doctor as well. And he is one of the most present, thoughtful, compassionate doctors I've ever had a chance to spend time with. He listens, and I feel like when I talk to him, we're like on the same team. We're like co-creating what we should do next together. And I can't tell you how much of a breath of fresh air that is. So let's hear it from Dr. Pinkston and how he helps specifically with a really cool technique called hydrodissection.
Yeah, hydrodissection is a really terrific tool if you have the appropriate imaging capabilities, which really has to be ultrasound to be able to see soft tissue and the nerves, because there's a lot of pain that is simply nerve entrapment, something putting excessive pressure on a nerve. Sometimes it might be a bone or disc when it's the spine, but once you get away from the spine, a lot of times it's just muscle, just connective tissue. And if you can get a needle down or guide a needle down to that point and inject some fluid around it, then you give it some breathing room, so to speak. You push the tissue away, you get rid of the entrapment. Also, the solution, which is usually a diluted sugar solution, it helps calm the nerve down. So it stops excessive firing.
And so, yeah, Dr. Pinkston actually helped me a lot with hydrodissection. It's really what has given me the most relief for some of the nerve entrapment that I have in my neck. And it's an amazing procedure that most people don't know about, but should. He also does platelet-rich plasma injections, stem cell therapy, and shockwave therapy. So he's really deep into the field of regenerative medicine. So go check him out. The next person I want to mention here is Megan Hearn with Vitality Neuro Coaching. She does neurofeedback, which is kind of like biofeedback. You maybe have heard of that. But with a lot of with going back to medicine 3.0, we have this rise of individualized medicine that is taking place with the wearables that we see, the monitors like continuous glucose monitors and sleep monitors. And there's more on the way. This is a top trend for 2025, but I see it as going on way past this year. This is not going to stop. And essentially, it gives us a dashboard for our body. And let's hear it from Megan how she works with neurofeedback technology to give you an idea of the way your brain works. I think it's pretty dang cool.
We put sensors on your scalp and earlobes to pick up that signal and then run it through an amplifier to my software, which compares your electrical frequency pattern to our goals, our hurdles and limbo bars for what your frequencies are at the spot that we're measuring on your head. And so, for example, we might say, oh, we're going for, we want to encourage more beta wave frequency, which just means like that's between 12 and 20 hertz frequency. And we want to minimize your theta waves, which is between 4 and 7. But you don't have to remember that. But I'm just saying, like, as I program stuff into the software. That's the hurdles and the limbo bars. As you do the brain training, which involves sitting in a recliner with these wires on your head, watching your favorite show on Netflix or something, documentary or whatever, the computer gives you feedback that's pretty instantaneous based on your electricity patterns. And it's saying like, okay, when you meet the goals, the screen's going to get brighter. And when you're not meeting those goals, it gets a little darker. So the effect is like a slight flickering of the screen. And your brain is subconsciously learning from that feedback.
Wellness isn't a one size fits all. What works for me might not work for you. The real magic in healing happens when you start exploring and start trying different things. And God knows I've tried a million things on myself and to help others. So I have 5 experts that are going to talk about the various ways that you can find wellness, and they all have different forms. Nicole Will with Asheville Wellness Tours finds wellness in nature. Hayden Hasty with Wellspring Wellness Center finds that wellness is in the mind. Corey Costanzo with Still Point Wellness finds wellness in relationships. Natty Trebutich finds wellness in sharing a meal with strangers. And Jody Appel with The Salt Cave finds that you can maybe find wellness with others in a cave made of salt. So let's hear it from them.
And so there are many different paths to cultivate your well-being, your personal wellness practice. Mine is nature. Mine is connection to nature, being outside, sitting on the porch with tea, going deep into the woods alone, whatever, nature, all the time. And absolutely, that has taught me the power of stillness and the power of listening just to everything around you, to really connecting into place, your body, senses. And that's so helpful when combating, like you said, the brute force tendency within us all of like, I know I would love this thing, but I am not my guest, right? I am not this other business that we're in community with. And so being able to put aside the stories I'm telling or the assumptions I'm making and truly listen, that is a lesson I am still learning.
Okay, next here we have Dr. Hayden Hasty and Terry Hasty over at Wellspring Wellness Center. That's on Tunnel Road. And they have gathered an amazing collection of human beings offering all kinds of wellness practices, wellness services over there. It's actually the spot where I do my wellness networking events as well. And just really comfy, cozy, well thought through, laid out place to go rest and just be. And I've become really impressed over the course of time getting to know this dynamic couple. They started off with Wellspring Wellness Center, then moved to Mind Spring, and then now they are on to Truth Spring, which is really, really exciting. And they have a conference coming up here in September that I think everybody should check out, because it really embodies so much of what I think wellness is all about, which is pretty much something that takes place in the mind. And while we all might be focused on body-centric practices, really what I've learned is that the true director of wellness is your own mind. And so Hayden and Terry both teach this. So let's hear just a little blurb from Hayden on this topic.
Now, again, we didn't start off at this point when we first started the business in 1995. We were not aware of this. Wellness is not a byproduct of the body. Wellness is a byproduct of the mind. As your mind is, so will your future be. As the level of consciousness is, so does it dictate the outer experiences and the kind of experiences that the individual draws to themselves, because it's fairly magnetic in that way. And looking at it, and I loved what you said about having to go deeper, and it's going to be about you. It's not going to be about anything happening on the outside.
And he's totally right. I think about sometimes my dad used to be, when he would drive, he'd always be so mad at everybody. Like the drivers would be, and other cars would just be pissing him off, and he'd just be constantly upset and constantly angry. And it seems like every time, and I was always so nervous driving with him because it seems like every time he would get in a car, we literally, like, people would cut him off, and all kinds of things would happen. And it seemed like the universe was just literally giving him exactly what he what he was asking for. He was already upset before he already got in the car, and so yeah, it was pretty much the universe was like, very obliging and reflected back to him exactly what he was already looking for. And then I learned from that. And it's funny because I have so few things happen to me when I'm in a vehicle, and it's because I have zero idea that they will. And I feel like that's just an example of how the mind creates the reality, not the other way around. So very, very much agree here with Hayden. So Corey and Robin Costanzo, founders of Still Point Wellness, talk about co-regulation next, where human connection has the ability to calm our nervous systems. So they were amazing and offered me flotation therapy. And it's one of those hot trends that's been going on for a while, but people finding ways to reconnect with themselves and each other is what they're all about. So let's hear it from them about co-regulation here.
There are times I did it twice in the last 12 hours with Robin. We just looked at each other. We've had a little kind of back and forth, and we're just like, hey, let's just hug it out. Let's just hug it out. Come on, let's just let it go. Take a few breaths.
Hold on, it can't be that easy, man.
No, I'm telling you, if you set it up in advance and be like, hey, when it gets past a certain level, let's just press pause in the conflict. Let's just give hugs and just breathe together for a few seconds and, co-regulate one another. That's one of the best things to a healthy, sustainable relationship is this concept of co-regulation where, we can help one another to regulate, keeps the relationship really strong.
Ever since I heard Corey talk about this idea of co-regulation, I just really have been thinking how many times in general within my own nervous system, like I was just chatting with my partner today. We do a Sunday chat every Sunday at 10 o'clock. We sit down and we talk about our relationship, and we're talking about this idea of nervous system regulation. And one of the things I reflected on was how when I'm sort of not doing well and I'm operating at like a really high level of anxiety or just kind of nervous tension, I'm so much easier to snap or just be sure, or I'll even sometimes I'll send her audio messages and I'll listen to the audio message. And I literally just did this 2 days ago. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I sounded so mean. Didn't really mean that. And I feel like it's really common that we slip into very unconscious states, and it takes a lot to help regulate your own nervous system, let alone help someone else. So I'm really appreciative of Corey for bringing this term to me and this topic to me. Lee Trebotich is next here, who I know as Natty and other people know as Natty, shares how food connects us. He recounts a hiking story where he encountered some non-English speakers and just recounts how they bonded over some shared meals. And his work reflects the trend of communal rituals, fostering unity through nature, and how we're nourished by both food and being in community with one another. So let's hear it from Natty.
Yeah, and I want to tell a quick story
Yeah.
because when I was calming down in Pico de Orizaba down there with my good friend Stephen Ronhold, it's pretty much the same story. We're down there at Camp Oso, and it's just a base camp for a lot of different mountaineers, and there was a handful of people from around the world. I mean, London, you had people from Switzerland, Germany, just a lot of different people. The people in there were just full on, heart of Mexico, and so we're in this one room waiting for dinner, and people are trying to communicate with us. The language barriers is very strong. You have people over here speaking, German, you got Russian, you got just a handful of people in here, and we're all just climb mountain, we're kind of using terms where we understand and trying to communicate, and it's getting a little awkward, and then the ladies come out, and then the plates at the table. And then everybody just exhausted from climbing starts eating. And as we're eating, everybody's looking up, making eye contact. No words are
Yeah.
said. We're all just shaking our head. And
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page. It's like we're tired from climbing. This is great food. Like it was just a
Mhm.
great moment.
So we have Jody Appel with the Asheville Salt Cave, and Jody runs one of the most amazing businesses. I mean, you can go there, you can sit in community with others, breathing in this amazing salt air, reducing inflammation, reducing stress. You can engage in a hammam bath ritual. And Jody really talks about the uh, importance of community and social connection and how the salt cave brings people together. They do lots of very cool things there, sharing stories. There's yoga that happens there. So listen in to Jody's perspective here.
Think it's a big problem right now. A lot of people don't feel connected with whatever their life stories are. And that's why we have a lot of kind of tragedy within the world right now. A lot of people not listening to each other and having conversations. And like, I feel like here I'm trying to hold that space for people to come back to those real, like, human connections and topics instead of just divisive or distraction or whatever that is. I think of that when you say that, what is it that maybe needs to shift in that way? And I'm probably not been going to be able to shift that at all, but at least in my little bubble, I want to shift it.
Okay, so in this third section, we talk about trusting yourself. And, wellness really does require a bit of intuition because nobody knows you like you. And sometimes it can be where you have to make some challenging choices to move forward. That might be in relationship with another. Maybe it's starting a relationship or maybe ending a relationship. Maybe it is starting a new career or ending a career. In either case, you have to trust yourself. And sometimes that's making tough calls. So there are folks out there that have roadmaps and compasses for navigating these kinds of things. And so that's what this third section is about. It's about trusting yourself. We're going to hear it from two experts here in Asheville who really demonstrate the understanding of how to trust yourself. They've done it themselves and they help others as well. We have Rayana Starr and Matt Piken, who both really speak to authenticity and trusting your gut. They both are all about dismantling our cultural conditioning and trying to free us from our own limitations. I feel like their combined wisdom aligns with the sort of the wellness trends toward sovereignty in seeking your own experience and finding your own path, knowing that wellness really is not one size fits all, but it's something that we all must discover for ourselves and then, of course, practice regularly. So let's hear it from both of them.
We are conditioned by parents, by society, by our teachers, by our peers to fit in and be homogenized so we all fit in. And human design is coming in, and that's why the name of my human design practice is Permission to Be You. It's about, no, you're not designed to be a sheeple. You're here to be, we're all unique, like a fingerprint. We are all very unique. And when you're given permission to be, I like to use this analogy with clients and students. It's like you've been going along your whole life being told you're a broken vacuum cleaner. And then someone comes along and sees that you're not a vacuum cleaner, you're a microwave. And they set you up on a shelf in the kitchen and they put food in you and you heat it up and you're like, oh my God, now you know your purpose and how you're meant to operate.
I don't know that passion's the right ingredient. I think it's following your gut and trusting your gut as a compass. And I have always trusted my gut ultimately. And leaving BPR was just the latest media job that I have left. I won't go through my whole history, but I was at a newspaper in Minnesota, in St. Paul, Minnesota. It was union protected. I had 10 years of seniority. I didn't have to leave. I could have stayed and could have just ridden out a paycheck through my retirement if that's what I wanted to do. And there came a point there where I knew that if I stayed, I reached a fork in the road. Let's put it this way. I reached a fork, and one path was staying and I felt nauseous. The other path was leaving, not knowing what I was going to do, but just knowing I was going to leave, and I felt euphoric.
And reflecting on what Matt said, it's really true. I mean, if you're out there, there's a really good chance that one of you listeners out there or more, probably more, are going through transitions right now that are really needing to hear that message that you can trust yourself. Some of you are navigating relationship changes and career changes, and maybe you're caring for a loved one that's sick, or an elder parent that maybe is experiencing aging and needs just some extra help. But whatever it is for you, I guess my main message is that you're definitely not alone. This is a community here where we all experience those things and recognize that we are a human and going through those things together. If not now, later at some point in life, we'll all have the experience of suffering deeply. So we really need each other for that reason. All right. And last but not least, the last section here is a bit of a hopeful astrological projection of the future here, 2027 and beyond, by Michael Spramuli, who does vibrational astrology with Blue Ridge Astrology. Michael really did an amazing job on reading me and helped me understand some things about myself that I was really not aware of. So because of that, I wanted to put him on here to give us all a little snippet of what vibrational astrology can do in terms of, predicting, or at least giving us an idea or understanding of the energetics of a future time period. Like he says here, let's hear it of what 2027 and beyond might bring us.
I think we're going to start to see a shift collectively around 2028, because once a planet kind of switches signs or forms an aspect, it's not like the light gets turned on. There's this ramp up period. And that's where we are now. We're at this very moment. I'm looking at my software as we speak. Pluto is only, let's see, where are you, Pluto? It's signs are cut up into 30-degree slices of pie. 360 make up the whole zodiac. Everything starts at 1, it goes through 29, and then we get into the next sign. Pluto right now is only at 2 degrees of Aquarius. It's going to be in Aquarius for 18 years. What we are going to see from a technological, AI, robotic, self-driving car, it's going to blow us away. And it's exciting and terrifying at the same time.
In summary, we went over Medicine 3.0 and what that new wave of personalized, preventative, evidence-informed healthcare looks like. We talked about the many faces of wellness and how wellness is not one size fits all, and how you have to go out there and experience different forms of wellness and see what works for you. And we also talked about trusting yourself and how the best decisions often start from within you. And of course, we ended with a hopeful message there by Michael Spramuli. I really hope that you heard something in one of these speakers today that excited you, maybe inspired you to look into something further, maybe reach out to one of them. And what's really great is this was just some snippets of the longer conversations that I've had. So if you want to hear any of these episodes in full, well, you're just going to have to tune in and make sure you catch their episode, because each one of these speakers has already been recorded and their podcast date has been set. So I hope you tune in. Thank you for listening. To learn more about Be Well Asheville, visit bewellavl.com. And don't forget to follow this podcast. You can catch the next episode and bring us along on your hike on the Mountains to Sea Trail, on your drive through the Parkway, or on your way downtown to Friday's Drum Circle. If you loved what you heard, please rate and review the show. Your review helps others discover and grow our wellness community. You can also check out Asheville Wellness news, events, and our newsletter at bewellavl.com. Thank you for being the best part of our wellness community. Until next time, be well.